Hello everyone and welcome to this evening's talk about fish health and our work at the National Fisheries Laboratory. Firstly, thanks very much to Alex for inviting us to speak this evening and giving us this opportunity. Tonight we'll be taking a closer look at what goes on at the National Fisheries Laboratory, and it'll be followed by a Q&A session afterwards with a few of the team. We've also included our contact details at the end of the talk, so if you ever want to get a hold of us, you can either drop us an email or pick up the phone. So, over the next 20 minutes, we're going to give you a non-stop tour of the work we do for fisheries, why we do it, and what we can all do to keep our fisheries healthy and performing as well as they can. So to start, a quick bit about where we work. The Environment Agency's National Fisheries Laboratory is based in Brampton, just outside Huntingdon in Cambridgeshire. Being centrally located means we are lucky to be situated close to some amazing fisheries, just a couple of miles from Grafham Water, one of the country's premier trout fisheries, but also blessed with some enormous predators. For the carp anglers out there, Cambridgeshire probably needs no introduction, with some of the best specimen waters in the UK and some of the largest fish in the country. And let's not forget our rivers, with some fantastic perch, roach, chub and barbel fishing right on our doorstep. In fact, many of us who work at Brampton are very keen anglers, and we're all passionate about keeping our fisheries healthy. Being centrally located also makes it easier for us to keep an eye on the national picture and also receive samples from all over the country, no matter what species or fishery type. Our work is ROD licence funded, which means that all of our services here at the lab, which includes everything in this talk, is there to maintain, improve and develop our fisheries. Essentially, we're here for you. And this involves a few different areas of work. We have an expert fish ageing team who help monitor the health and performance of our fisheries. You can tell so much from the scale of a fish, from the growth of 100-pound carp to the life history of wild eels and salmon. Check out the recent Angling Trust's Lines on the Water blog on fish ageing if you haven't seen it already. We also do work on non-native species and are at the forefront in the battle against harmful and invasive species. The Fish Health team are passionate about keeping our fisheries healthy and lead the way in the detection and management of diseases old and new. And finally, we provide advice and guidance on all aspects of this work and how we can all pull together to protect our fisheries. So, the focus of this talk is on health, which is important for so many reasons. If fish are healthy, then this goes a long way towards good fishery performance. Healthy fish grow well and maintain good condition. Importantly, they feed well, and as anglers we know that this is important. These are the sort of pictures we love to see. In fact, they're all members of the team enjoying our great sport. A crucial point is that healthy fish are also more resilient to challenge, either to handling, environmental changes, as we seem to experience more and more frequently, and importantly, healthy fish have better defences and immune systems, so are more able to counter infections. Unfortunately, disease can arise for many different reasons, often related to fishery management practices and also fish introductions, which we'll come to a bit later. You may be familiar with some diseases through interest in the fish you fish for, but disease can pose a risk to all of our fish species and all of our fisheries. They can also have varied impacts, from sudden but short-lived mortality events to chronic infections that slowly reduce health and lead to grumbling losses for months and even years. Some diseases are common and natural, others rare and exotic. Some cause obvious symptoms, others less obvious, and some infect only one or two species, while others can infect every fish species in a fishery. There is huge diversity. Here are just a few examples, including viruses, bacteria, fungal infections and parasites, as well as environmental issues and novel diseases. At the National Fisheries Laboratory, we cover all diseases, and our approaches to detecting them are just as varied as the conditions we see. We conduct mortality investigations to identify the cause of problems, health checks before fish are moved to new waters. We focus on specific diseases through broader monitoring and surveillance, and are also at the forefront in the detection and management of new and emerging diseases in fisheries. Lastly, and by no means least, we contribute towards good fishery management, which is so often at the heart of disease problems, but also key to overcoming problems and making our fisheries as healthy and resilient as they can be. There are different categories of disease, and indeed from a national perspective, some diseases are more important than others. But we have a remit to maintain, improve and develop fisheries, so if any disease is causing your fishery serious problems, then it's important to us too, and we're here to help. So, what might this look like? Well, in terms of a mortality event, our area teams lead the way and are the first point of contact for any fishery problems. If you ever experience fish dying or in distress or suspect a disease problem, call our instant hotline so we can respond. Depending on the severity of the problem and if disease is suspected, we'll be contacted to help. Often, the first point of contact is a site visit by our area officers to assess environmental conditions including water quality and algal communities. These are common triggers for health problems. We review detailed information from the fishery, including rates of losses, species affected, symptoms and behaviour of the fish, alongside information on fishery management practices and fish introductions. Live fish are preferentially sampled by our area teams to capture fish that are representative of the problems being seen, and these are brought to our laboratories for detailed examinations. Dead fish can limit what you can tell about a mortality, so the better, more representative the sample, the better the results we can obtain. Occasionally we will do examinations on the bankside, but the laboratory allows us to conduct far more detailed investigations using a wide range of equipment including microscopes and diagnose the problem more quickly. Within the lab, we have an experienced team of disease experts who conduct detailed examinations on every fish. Here is Amy dissecting a 40-pound carp, which was examined following a high-profile mortality event. We take a wide range of different samples that enable a detailed look at what's going on and have many different laboratories which perform different tests. We test for all types of disease, including notifiable diseases like KHV and SVC, recently detected pathogens like CEV, bacterial diseases, internal and external parasites, and all types of common infections, as well as environmental, nutritional, and non-infectious conditions. Our examinations include histology, where thin sections are taken from each organ and stained to reveal changes in tissues and cells. We also carry out molecular tests to detect viruses which are far too small to see. Here is Connor from earlier this week testing samples for viruses. All of this information helps form a picture, each test or observation forming a piece of the jigsaw. The more detailed the investigation, the clearer the picture of what's going on. Conversely, testing for only one thing can provide a very narrow view and may not pick up underlying triggers or causes for a disease problem. Our health checks are also very detailed, but take a slightly different approach, where 30 fish are examined from a population to check they are healthy. These are similar to getting a car checked before you buy it, or getting a survey done on a house before buying. Health checks are not a guarantee, but they do go a long way to avoiding the introduction of non-native parasites that, once introduced, can cause long-term problems. The introduction and spread of disease poses one of the greatest risks to our fisheries, and considerable efforts go into preventing them. It's important to realise that the UK has a very good health status and is free of many serious diseases that are present elsewhere. But factors such as the international trade in fish, climate change and expansion in global aquaculture have led to the emergence of new diseases and also the translocation of non-native species. As such, any introduction or movement of fish carries a risk. We work closely with colleagues at CFAS and share responsibilities for fish health. We have combined surveillance efforts to detect diseases and both have regulatory powers to control the introduction and spread of serious pathogens to our fisheries. An important aspect of this is avoiding the import of high-profile diseases and having plans in place if these were ever seen. Probably the most important example of this in fishery terms is Gyrodactylus salaris, a skin parasite introduced to Norway from Sweden in the 1970s that can devastate salmon populations. We are currently free of this parasite and would definitely like to keep it that way. So let's take a look at some specific diseases, with a mix of common risks, infections and new diseases, perhaps some of the most topical, recent and important conditions we see. We've tried to cover something for everyone using a range of fish species and angling interests. We've also used each to demonstrate a key message or lesson that we can all learn to help protect our fisheries. Of course, this is only a brief snapshot in the 20 minutes or so that we have, so if you'd like information on something different, just get in touch and we'd be happy to help. Something that always deserves a mention is the general subject of the weather and its influence on our fisheries. Environmental conditions, particularly temperature, not only affect our fish, but also water quality, parasites and other diseases. Many health problems are triggered by water quality or stress, and many diseases have preferred temperature windows where they are most active, so these combinations can sometimes cause problems. Awareness of things like dissolved oxygen and algal blooms are really important. So, periods of long hot weather or sudden changes in the weather need a careful eye to ensure our fish are well and conditions are maintained. Kai Jerome did a talk on oxygen in fisheries last month, including the causes of low DO. So, if you didn't catch the talk, it's still online, so give it a watch whenever you get a chance. Our area teams are best placed to advise on specific water quality queries or environmental problems, but at the lab, we're always alert to changing conditions and prepared for what this could mean for disease outbreaks. On the subject of stress, there's perhaps no better example than bacterial infections. Many bacteria are naturally present in our fisheries, but only take hold when fish are run down, damaged, or stressed. Bacterial infections are often associated with red lesions and open sores on the body. Whilst these can quickly heal if conditions are good, they can become enlarged if fish are stressed, leading to a wider problem, chronic mortalities, and loss of fishery performance. Fishery management is absolutely crucial for fish health, and this disease is an example that arises in response to either environmental problems, poor water quality, or intensive management practices like overstocking, poor nutrition, or excess angling pressure. The key message here is stress. Like so many health problems, bacterial diseases are often stress related. As such, they can usually be prevented by providing good water quality, good habitat, varied nutrition, sensible stock levels, and minimal stress. With these in place, the fish can take care of themselves. This second disease is very different and is thankfully an unusual one. Carp edema virus, or CEV, was first detected following our mortality investigations in the southeast of England in 2010. It has so far been found in 9 fisheries in England, and we've placed immediate fish movement restrictions on these sites to avoid further spread. As the name suggests, CEV is a viral disease that has recently spread across Europe, and it's one of the most important risks to our carp fisheries. CEV typically causes lethargy, with fish appearing sleepy, leading to severe gill damage and significant mortalities. Unlike other viral diseases like KHV, CEV can occur at any time of the year and can affect all types of carp fishery, including specimen waters with low stock levels and minimal stressors. CEV is related to a disease called koi sleepy disease and is thought to have primarily spread across the world with movements of koi carp. However, infection can be carried by any common carp. Ornamental fish should never be released into fisheries, and fish should never be stocked from garden ponds. So, we've covered bacteria and viruses. Let's not forget about parasites. This is a character that may appear familiar, but has an added twist. The fish louse Arguless is a common parasite of fish, and you may well have seen the odd one or two on fish you've caught from fisheries around the country. Hopefully you've not seen this one though, as it's a different species and a recent introduction to our fisheries. This is Arguless mongolianus, an unusual parasite recently detected during our mortality investigations. We pay very close attention to parasites and identify these lice routinely. We currently have 3 species in the UK, but this one is a new addition and unlike the others appears to favour the gills of fish rather than the body and fins. We're concerned this species could be equally if not more problematic. This year we've confirmed some very heavy infections of this parasite, resulting in some nasty gill damage. So, what can you do? Well, this parasite, like so many others, will be picked up in health checks, so always get fish health checked before stocking. Okay, it costs money, but the cost of disease introduction can be far, far higher, and once introduced, there's no going back. Always get in touch if you want any information about health checks, what to look out for, and what you can do to minimise the risks of stocking. We're here to help. Next up is one for those interested in eels. Not many people fish for eels, and in fact, some anglers dislike them with a passion. Whether you're fond of eels or not, you can't help but respect them. Living for 20 or 30 years in our fisheries before swimming over 5,000 kilometres to the Sargasso Sea to spawn. You may well be aware that eels are now critically endangered, and their ability to successfully migrate and spawn relies on being as healthy as possible. We monitor eel health and also investigate any disease outbreaks so we can understand these pressures. One example is a viral disease known as eel herpes virus, or herpes virus anguillae, not too dissimilar from koi herpes virus in carp. We have only observed disease in a small number of fisheries and closely monitor the health of eels during any stocking event to reduce the risk of transfer to other catchments. Diseases like this can have important influences on the ecology of eels, and this is especially relevant as they are a threatened species. We cover all diseases of both economic and ecological significance, and our work embraces conservation as well as the development of our more popular fisheries. Now, from one iconic species to another, the Atlantic salmon, and an example for the salmon anglers out there. This is red skin disease, a newly recorded skin condition of salmon that we are closely monitoring. It was first reported from Scandinavia a few years ago and has since been seen in small numbers of salmon returning to some rivers across the UK. We still know very little about this disease, including its cause and significance, but are asking any sightings to be reported to the team at the National Fisheries Laboratory or to your local fisheries officer. This was a photo sent to us last week from an angler before the fish was returned otherwise healthy to the river. While some diseases can appear alarming, they can have relatively little effect on our fish, so we are keen to learn more about this one. Please report any suspicions of RSD or indeed any disease problem in fisheries to us promptly so we can respond. A photograph, if safe for you and the fish to take, can be extremely useful and really helps us to understand what is being seen. So, a few examples there of diseases new and old in a range of different fish species and fisheries. Whilst many of us at the lab are keen anglers and water users, we rely on you as our eyes and ears for reporting problems to us. We offer advice, guidance, and a huge amount of information on many different aspects of fish health, and you've seen the importance of our lab investigations in confirming the cause of problems, as well as actions to protect our fisheries. At the end of the day, the health of our fisheries relies on us all, and we all have a role to play. Probably the most important thing we can all do is practice good biosecurity. Biosecurity is the prevention of introducing diseases and harmful species from entering or leaving a fishery. A massive difference can be made by taking a few simple steps when you're out fishing or involved at your local fishery. Check, clean, dry is a key principle that we should all practice every time we go fishing. Check your equipment, nets and boots for living organisms, clean them off and dry them thoroughly. That way, risks are greatly reduced. If in doubt or you don't have time, then you can use disinfectants which can help kill off pathogens, but always adhere to the instructions and contact times. Don't forget that biosecurity includes the introduction of plants too. So if looking at new marginal planting or introducing floating islands, seek advice and always obtain them from a reputable business. Biosecurity also includes the introduction of fish, and this is one of the greatest risks of all to a fishery. Always get a health check, always be there at the point of stocking, buy from reputable sources, seek independent advice and tread carefully. If ever stocking fish, ask yourself, do you know exactly what you're stocking? And if you're not happy, say so. Another important question to ask before you stock is whether you really need to. Not all diseases are obvious externally, and not all can be picked up in a health check, particularly some viral pathogens. Stocking is so often seen as the answer to fishery performance, but it's seldom as simple as that, and the answer could in fact be the complete opposite, taking fish out. This is far less risky, far less expensive, and can make the performance of a fishery soar, as fish have more room, access to more food, better environmental conditions, less stress, and therefore they feed more vigorously. The key to knowing whether to stock or not is to obtain the evidence first, so your decisions are based on facts, not assumptions. At the National Fisheries Laboratory, we offer a free fish aging kit for stillwater fisheries who are looking to improve fishery performance or better understand the health of their fishery. The pack includes everything you need, and even comes with a postage-paid envelope for returning scale samples to us. The information this provides can be key to understanding how well fish are growing and can help inform good fishery management rather than guessing. If interested, then get in touch with us or your local fisheries officer. Finally, with so much emphasis on avoiding disease, we just wanted to touch on managing disease if it does occur. Diseases do arise for many reasons, and the key is knowing what to do to minimize impact and avoid problems reoccurring. We provide advice and guidance for every disease we investigate and offer fishery management advice to help get fisheries back on track. An example here is life after KHV. We've investigated over 180 cases of KHV in fisheries, and in many cases, fishery management is central to the recovery as well as the outbreak. On top of detecting these diseases, we offer guidance on improving biosecurity, how to get the fishery back on track, and what can be done to avoid future problems. And this largely lies with the subject of fishery resilience. Fishery resilience is about the health of fish, the environment and management practices, and is about how resistant a fishery is to all sorts of challenge. Some fisheries are extremely resilient to disease. Others operate on a knife edge with only the smallest disturbance capable of tipping the balance in favour of the pathogen, resulting in a disease outbreak. There is no silver bullet to avoiding disease or any one thing that makes a fishery invincible. But getting the basics right through good fishery management, good nutrition, water quality, biosecurity and health goes a long way to minimising problems. Each factor contributes a few percent that together add up to make a fishery stronger and healthier for years to come. Finally, we have an example of how you can apply targeted management approaches to tackle specific health problems. The common fish louse, Arguless, can cause persistent problems in stillwater fisheries, particularly in trout fisheries. Heavy infections can cause condition loss, lethargy, inappetence, reduce angler catches, and even cause mortality in severe cases. We've been working with fisheries across the country to help reduce the burden of this native parasite by helping to break its life cycle. Female parasites leave the fish to lay their eggs on a hard substrate. After a period of around 2 weeks, these eggs hatch, releasing up to 300 young that go in search of a new host. We've developed an approach using plastic pipes to help harvest and remove the eggs of the parasite before they hatch. We've been working with fisheries affected by Arguless to trial these pipes with very promising results so far. Pipes are placed around the margins of the fishery and raised every 2 weeks to allow the eggs to dry off and die. So far we have harvested over 400,000 eggs per pipe in a 2-week period and removed literally tens of millions of eggs from fisheries. This approach also allows fishery managers to monitor the parasite population through different times of the year, so activities like stocking can be done at a time that avoids risky periods. These pipes, combined with other management practices, have helped to reduce the pressure of parasites on the fish, and we hope that it will provide a cheap, simple approach to help reduce the impact of this damaging parasite across the country. If you know of a water with Arguless problems, a fishery that needs some help, or are just interested in knowing more about this project, then please get in touch. So, that brings us to the end of the talk and a brief roller coaster tour through our work and the subject of fish health. Hopefully there's been something for everyone, and hopefully some take-home messages for us all in our quest for healthy fish and healthy fisheries. If you're interested in learning more, why not take a look at the IFM courses on fish health? We work closely with the IFM and many other partners to share the work that we do, and this includes short training courses in many different aspects of fishery management, including disease. Thank you hugely for listening, and please do get in touch if we can do anything to help. You know where we are. Tight lines.